You've probably never seen a guitar quite like this one. It's a 9-string classical guitar with 2 heads and 1 neck, and today we're going to restore it to its former glory. Now the owner said it's over 100 years old, which I cannot confirm nor deny, as there are no serial numbers to be found on the guitar and there is no label of the manufacturer inside. Also, online I could not find any information about where it was made or who it was made by, so if you have any information, please let me know. Considering its age, the guitar is actually in pretty good condition besides the obvious wear and tear, as you can see. Now let's get this restoration underway. As you can see, the bridge was being held on the soundboard by hopes and dreams only, so let's take it off and we'll deal with it later when we clean and polish out the soundboard. The tiny screws that hold the machine heads were all rusted away, so I had to use some pliers to pull them out. Now the frets they used didn't have any teeth, and I am either the strongest man alive or these are made out of brass. The joint on the headstocks is all messed up as the glue gave up a long time ago, and I think the only thing keeping this together are some hidden wooden dowels, so I will take them apart and see what's hiding inside. And I was right, there are actually 2 wooden dowels made out of ebony that were holding this thing together, which I already knew since I'm recording this voiceover after I've done all the work. And now it's just a normal guitar with 1 headstock. You can see that the middle machine head is actually in pretty good condition, as it was covered by the other headstock and it was not exposed to the elements. Every time I am refretting a guitar, I get a couple of questions in the comments asking me why I use solder on the frets. And sometimes the frets are actually glued in the fretboard, so in order to not damage the fretboard or have any chip out damages, you need to heat up the frets before you pull them out. And this is the fastest and most efficient way to heat up the frets without hitting the wood around it. I'll be using the StewMac narrow medium frets, as most of the vintage guitars had really small frets. This heavyweight made by Taylor was designed specifically to hold your guitar in place so it doesn't move around when you hammer in the frets. Now I'm using wood glue when installing the frets, as it is much easier to clean up and it fills the voids in the channels really nicely. Also, if at any point there's a guy that will refret the guitar down the line, I'm doing him a huge favor, as it is much easier to remove frets that were installed with wood glue than CA glue. Now with all of these guitar restorations, there's always the question of, is refretting worth it? Meaning, does it increase or lower the value of the restored guitar? And in my opinion, 99% of the customers that come in our workshop want the guitar to be restored to its fully playable condition. Meaning, if the frets are all worn out and the guitar is buzzing all around the neck, there is no point in keeping those frets, and it's more logical to replace them and restore the neck completely. For example, a few videos back I did a restoration of a Fender Telecaster from the 70s, and I got a few comments saying the guitar is not worth as much now as it was before. Well, the guitar was in such bad condition, the frets were all worn out, the neck was bent, and the bridge was so rusted up that you could not set the intonation or the height of the strings. So there's no point in keeping all of those unfunctioning parts on the guitar if you restore it if it's not playable at the end. Because after all, when it was brand new and out of the factory, it was fully playable. So in this case, you actually did not restore the guitar to its fully playable and original condition, in my opinion. With all of that being said, of course there are exceptions. If you own an extremely rare instrument that needs to be restored to its original condition without replacing any of the original parts, even though they are damaged or non-functional, that is okay too. But most of the time the customers want their instrument to be restored to its fully playable condition, even if that means changing a screw or two. Now back to the restoration. You can see the guitar has a few cracks here and there, but nothing major. This one between the back and the side looks quite rough, but it actually closes up really nicely. So I just need to fill it up with some glue and then clamp it up. I'm using tight bond wood glue for this kind of repair and also for any kind of bracing repairs I do, as it holds up really well and it's also really easy to clean up. Now I just need to clamp it all up and leave it overnight to dry. While I wait for the glue to dry up, I'll be working on these brass machine heads, and I'll also clean up these old bone saddles, which I'll be replacing anyway. This is just for experiment. I'm using my proven and tested method of cleaning brass machine heads with hydrogen peroxide and ammonia. Now you always want to use a plastic container when you're dealing with this stuff, because when you mix the two components together, they heat up really fast to a really high temperature. So if you're using a glass container, let's say, it will explode. Speaking from experience. I will warn you, you should not try this yourself if you've never done this, because you can get pretty bad chemical burns on your skin if you're not experienced with this stuff. Also, you should always use proper protection when you're dealing with chemicals such as these. Now, after the process is done, I just need to rinse it up with distilled water and then dry it all up before applying a layer of oil protection. Up close, you can really see how nicely the machine heads cleaned up. We got a nice vintage look to them, and the plastic parts are not damaged by the chemicals. Also, the bone saddles cleaned up really nicely, so that's a great way if you want to bleach your raw bones. Now I'm just applying a protective coat of oil on the machine heads so they don't rust up in the future, and I'm leaving it overnight to dry. After 24 hours the glue is all dried up and I can remove the clamps. I also noticed that the inlay in the back is coming loose, so I'll just repeat the same process. I'll jam some wood glue in there and then leave it to dry. I can just press the inlay in and hold it in place with some tape, because it actually fits perfectly flush with the surrounding wood. Having a 0 fret on your guitar basically means that the nut that you install behind the fret determines the string spacing, and the fret determines the height of those strings. So it's a really precise process, as you don't want to go too low, because then you can have buzzing noises when you play open strings, but you don't want to go too high either, because then you can have intonation problems and it will be really uncomfortable to play because of the height of the strings. Now for the headstock repair, I need to remove the piece that covers the headstock so that I can easily access the area and clean all the glue residue. They were probably using hide glue back in the day, because it turns very brittle when it's old. I am removing all the old wooden plugs because I don't know how deep in the headstocks they really go, so just to be sure and to know that they will hold, I will be replacing them with new ones. Before I attach the headstocks back together, I will polish the separate pieces now because it's much easier to do so than later when it will all be in one piece. The two pieces fit together like dominoes, so it's just the same process as before, applying the glue, clamping everything up and leaving it overnight to dry. I'm covering up the soundboard where the bridge will be because I don't want to get the polishing compound on the gluing area. Now to the headstock assembly. As I mentioned earlier, sometimes with these restorations it just doesn't make sense to keep the old screws. In this case they were all rusted up and don't hold anything, so I will be replacing them with new modern black ones, and I actually think they fit really nicely. Now it's just about carefully applying the glue to all the areas and going to clamp down. I'm careful not to get any glue on the machine heads, so I carefully wipe everything down and again leave it overnight to dry. The last part of the gluing process is fixing the bridge. In the beginning of the video I showed just how much of a gap the soundboard and the bridge had, and that is caused by the tension of the strings warping the wood. I'm chiseling off all the glue residue from the bridge, and with a straight edge you can see just how much the wood warped under string tension. I'm also removing all the glue residue from the soundboard because I want a clean surface when I reapply the glue. Now the best way to get the bridge and the soundboard fitted together perfectly is to sand the bridge against the soundboard. And this process is actually really tedious and takes quite a long time, but it's the only way you can get a nice perfect fit. Replacing the fret on the bridge is the same process as replacing them on the fretboard. You can see just how soft the brass metal is. It was probably the only material available at that time, so that is what they used. But nowadays nobody uses brass frets anymore because the strings would chew right through them and you would need to be replacing your frets every couple of months. In this case I'm using a 2-compound glue rather than tight bond glue to attach the bridge to the soundboard, because after all this is a 9-string guitar and it will create much more stress and tension on the bridge than a normal 6-string nylon guitar. I've actually tested the strength of this glue and it's a couple of times stronger than normal tight bond wood glue. Some might say this is an overkill, but I'd rather be safe than sorry. We're almost at the final stages of this restoration. Now I'm just cleaning out the slots and then I'm making 2 new bone saddles. I make sure they fit nice and snug in the slots, and I also round out any sharp edges. Then I apply a little bit of CA glue and place them in. Attaching the machine heads back on the headstock, and you can see the nice bronze age look they got. I really dig this style. I am marking the string spacing on both nuts, and then I'm making rough cuts before I put on the strings, and then I will finalize the setup with the string tension on. I always like to sand the nut to 7 or 6000 grit before polishing everything up to have a nice high gloss finish to it. I actually nailed the height of the 3 bass strings compared to the other 6 perfectly in the first try, so I'm pretty happy with that. Now I just need to tune up the guitar, cut all the excess strings, and we are done with this restoration. Here are some final shots of the finished guitar. I actually think it turned out really great, and I will have a few sound demos playing at the end so you can hear how it sounds. I personally think it sounds really great, and it's a bit bass heavy because it's a bigger guitar and it sort of has a natural reverb to it. You just have to hear it. If you made it this far in the video, thank you for watching. And if you want to see more of this type of content with the guitar repairs and the restorations, you can support me and the channel by becoming a member here on YouTube or checking out my Patreon page. I will have all the links in the description below. Thanks for watching again and enjoy the sound demos.